In this video, we're going to go through the United States Postal Service interview questions that are most commonly asked and help you plan fantastic answers to these. So one question that is virtually guaranteed to come up is, what times are you happy to work? And there is a simple way to answer this that really helps in getting the job. So if you nail this question, it really, really seriously helps in getting the job. So the first thing you're going to absolutely emphasize is that you are reliable. You're also very flexible, and the times that you can work actually match up with what the Postal Service actually wants. So some absolutely fantastic things to mention are that you can work on a Sunday because post still moves on a Sunday. You can do Saturdays. You're open to working overtime. You can work in the school holidays, and Christmas time is an absolutely key point for the Postal Service. They deliver an enormous quantity. So if you can say to them, I can be available that time, it's no problem, that really does help you in getting the job. And the absolute key to success in this question is to always focus on what you can do, not what you can't. So if you can't work a Saturday because you've got commitments, just don't talk about Saturdays. And if they ask you, could you do the occasional Saturday? It's a very bad idea to say absolutely not. You want to talk about how you can manage your other commitments and how you can try and work around them, because you have to show off flexibility. They'd much rather employ someone who is flexible and meets their needs than someone who is rigid and refuses to do certain times and isn't really going to help them staff when they need the staff in. So really simple to do this question. Focus on what you can do and you'll be successful with this. Show off that flexibility. Second question, very common. How would you deal with angry and irate customers? And there is a simple process to follow when you're giving your answer. So you're going to start by talking about that you'll keep calm, that you're not going to argue back with them, you're not going to shout at them, and you're going to be showing the Postal Service in the best light. And a key word to always get in this answer is the phrase de-escalate. So instead of winding the person up, you're going to be calming them right down. You're going to be listening to their concerns and calming them down. And so ultimately, the Postal Service looks really good in this interaction. That you're a representative of that brand. You're going to be calm, polite, de-escalating, and the Post Service is going to look great. So if you get all that in your answer, it'll be really successful on this question. The third one, what can you tell me about the US Postal Service? And this is a fantastic question if you prepare for it. You're going to be asked something about your knowledge about the Postal Service. And the key to success with this is to start by mentioning things that everyone knows. You know, the really obvious things, like it delivers post. It's part of the government. These really simple key ideas. Then start moving into some things that only some people know. So talk about the different service levels. Talk about how it used to be the post office department. Talk about the inspection, the post office inspectors. That's what only some people will know. And then really, really show off, because you can absolutely max out the score in this question by talking about some things that only few people know. So like Article 8, Section 1, Clause 7 of the US Constitution. The Postal Service is actually in the Constitution. That's a great fact to talk about. You can talk about what they've done for breast cancer. You talk about how Ben Franklin researched him and how he's linked to the story. Talk about 1971, which is a really important time for the post office. The US Postal Service. And that's why I've got it twice, because if you can show off that knowledge, that's a fantastic fact to get in there. And so if you really do your research, and I've given you some prompts as things you can mention and go away and research, that will get you huge success on this question. Let's look at my top tip, which is read facts.usps.com. And you can repeat some of those facts and it'll absolutely show off the best of your knowledge. Now let's look at the fourth one. How would you handle a conflict with a co-worker? And this question can be a trap. And if you answer it badly, it causes big problems. So whenever you get a question like this, the first thing you mention is you say, I'm going to listen. You know, when someone's got something negative or an issue, the first thing you do is you listen to what they've got to say. You're not going to immediately go and argue back with them. You're going to listen and hear what they're saying. You're always going to be professional at all times. When you're at work, you are a professional. You want to make clear that you're going to do that. And then the next thing you're going to do is try and focus on the agreement, focus on the positives. You know, when someone disagrees with the way that you're doing, it's like, start by saying, you know, we will both want the best for our customers. We both want, you know, everything to work smoothly. So how can we move forward together? So it's all about listening, being professional, and trying to work with them. And it's a great idea to prepare 2 good examples. So think about your past work experience, prepare 2 good examples, and in your story of your examples, hit the listening point, the professionalism point, and the agreement and working together point. On the other hand, a terrible answer shows some sort of aggression. Do not come across in any way as aggressive at all, impatient, and no negativity. So in your examples, they should be positively resolved with you looking great. And if you plan these answers out, you'll absolutely nail this question. The last one, and it might not be asked in exactly this way, and none of these questions will be exactly, but they'll be based on the same idea, which is tell me about previous work experience. And you're going to obviously get some sort of question that touches on what have you done in the past. And there's 3 things you've got to bear in mind. Your work experience has to be relevant. They're not interested in things that are not at all relevant to your job. And it is your job in this question to link your previous experience to what you're applying for now. You have to back it up with evidence. So think about every point that you're giving and how you can back that up. And it has to also be credible, and that comes into the evidence. You have to actually believe that what you're saying is true. Otherwise, it really weakens your answer. So here's what the Postal Service want to hear from you. They want something that's actually relevant. So absolutely focus on the relevant work experience, and you might have to explain to them how it's relevant. So for example, if you'd worked in retail, that is actually relevant because you're dealing face-to-face with customers. And you have to point that out. Don't just assume that they will see the relevance. Explain how that previous job matches up with your current one. You want to show some sort of evidence of being a hard worker. So you've got positive impressions from your previous managers, you're good at handling heavy objects, and you've got great attendance. Make sure you're very clear on the fact that you can handle physical work. If you're applying for a physical job, say, I previously had a physically demanding job and I never had time off. I'm very good at physical labor. That's not a problem because that will reassure them. You can talk at length, absolutely talk about all of the training and development you got. What training did they provide? How are you better at what you do because of your previous work experience? If you can tell that story, that is really powerful. And lastly, you want to show off that managers has a positive impression of you. And if you've got a reference from a former manager that says very positive things, that goes a very, very, very long way into getting the job. So if you hit those key points and you always focus on those 3 balls that I've got there in each of your points, you will absolutely nail this question. So that's the end of our top 5. Thank you very much for watching and best of luck in your Postal Service interview.